Hello friends, schoolsteps.in welcomes you again. In the last tutorial, we worked on the mobile module of transferring assets. In this module, we'll work on the Wear module. Before we proceed, let's recall the concept that to listen to the data layer events, we have two options. First is to create a service that extends Wearable listener service. We have already implemented the same in our previous tutorials. Second one is to create an activity that implements the DataAPI.DataListener. In the second case, activity has to be active at the runtime to listen for the data layer events. One very important thing is that in our tutorials, Wearable listener service and data listener activity are the part of the Wearable module. You can implement it on the mobile module as well if your requirement is to send data back from Wearable to handheld. The next one is the runOnUIThread. We will talk about runOnUIThread later. Let's proceed with our program. Open the project My Assets and open the main activity of Wear module. Now as we are going to use the data listener activity here, we need to create the object of Google API client and we need to implement the required interfaces as we did in the mobile module. Let me do it quickly. I have implemented the required interfaces, that is connection callbacks and own connection failed listener. I have created the object of Google API client right here and I have implemented the required methods for the interfaces right here. Inside the own start method, we are saying Google API client.connect and inside the own stop method, we are saying Google API client.disconnect. Now the next important thing that we need to do is to implement the interface DataAPI.DataListener. So right here we need to say DataAPI.DataListener and we need to separate it by a comma. Now we need to implement the required methods for the data listener interface. Right click here, go to generate, click on implement methods. There is only one method, on data changed. Click OK. It will override the method for you and the error is gone. Now before we implement on data changed method, we need to do a couple of things. The first thing that we need to do is we need to go to the on connected method and right here we need to say Wearable.DataAPI.addListener and inside it we need to pass two parameters. One is the Google API client and the second one is the this. In the similar way, we need to implement on connection suspended method. Right here we need to say Wearable.DataAPI.removeListener and we need to pass Google API client and this. Now we need to remove the listener in the on connection failed method as well and we need to do the similar kind of stuff in the on stop method just before disconnecting the Google API client. Now if you remember in the previous tutorial we converted our bitmap to the asset. Now here we need to load our bitmap from the asset. So let's create a method for that. So we need to say private bitmap load bitmap from asset and we need to pass two arguments here. One is the Google API client and other one is the asset. Now the first thing that we need to do here is we need to check the asset for null. So we need to put one if condition. The second thing that we need to do is we need to get the input stream. So we need to say input stream, which is right here. Let's call it asset input stream is equal to Wearable dot data API dot get FD for asset. Choose the first one and right here we need to pass Google API client and the second parameter is asset. Outside it we need to say dot await dot get input stream. So get FD for asset method, it returns the pending result and that is why we are using the await method on it. Next we need to say return bitmap factory, which is right here, dot we need to look for the decode stream, which is right here, and we need to pass the input stream right here. Now if you see the decode stream, it returns the bitmap, which is our requirement. Now let's work on the onDataChanged method. If you remember, in the previous tutorials, we directly worked on the data events by running a for loop on it. Let's see what data event buffer class is. So this class extends to the com.google.android.gms.common.data.g, which is of type data event. Let's click on it. And further, if you see, data event is an interface which extends the class freezable. So right here, rather than directly working on the data events, we can work with the FreezableUtils. So we need to say FreezableUtils dot FreezableItRable, and inside it we need to pass our data events. Now this method returns the array list of type data event. So we can say final list of type data event. Let's call it events is equal to FreezableUtils.freezeItRable. Now we need to import it. Just go over it and press Alt and Enter together and import the class. So now we have put our data events inside the list. So we can close our data events. So we can say data events dot close, and now we can work directly on the events. So all we are doing here is to freeze an array of freezable entities into the list of concrete entities. Let's proceed further. So next we need to run a for loop on the events, and we need to put one if condition for the type changed. Let's put one log statement inside the if condition, and further let's get the path. So we need to say string path is equal to event dot get data item dot get URI dot get path. Now further we need to compare this path with the path which we are getting from the mobile module, which is /image. So we need to say if image path dot equals path, then do something. Now inside this if condition, the first thing that we need is we need to get the object of data map item. So we need to say data map item is equal to data map item dot from data item, and inside it we need to say event dot get data item, which will return us the object of data item, which is required as a parameter. So the method from data item, it will return us the object of data map item. Now we need to work on the data map item. So we need to say data map item dot get data map, which is right here, dot get asset, which is right here. And if you remember, in the mobile module we passed image as a key, so we need to pass our key right here. So get asset will return us the object of asset. So we can say asset photo is equal to. Now next we can use the load bitmap from asset method, and right here using this method we need to pass two parameters, and other one is the asset. So using this method we'll get the object of bitmap. So we can say that bitmap is equal to load bitmap from asset. So next we need to set this bitmap on the wearable device. So let's set it as a background for the layout. So let's go to the project, look for the wear module and look for the layout folder. In the layout folder, open both rect and round shapes. Now let's define the ID of the relative layout of round shape. Let's call it my layout ID. Now the similar ID we need to define for the rect shape. Here the layout is different. Here we have linear layout, but we can define the same ID. We are defining the same ID just to make sure whichever instance of wearable we open at the runtime, whether the rect or the round, our code should work on that. Next we need to go to the main activity of wear module again. Right here, if you see, we have already declared one variable of type view. We need to use this variable right here inside the onLayoutInflated method. This method is the one which got generated automatically. So right here we need to say layout which is referring to this variable, is equal to stub dot find view by id. In the parameter we need to say r.id dot my layout id, which we just defined. So this will return us the object of view, which is our layout. Now we need to set the background image for this particular layout. So right here we need to say layout dot set background, and right here inside the parameter we need to say new bitmap drawable, and we need to pass two parameters, in fact, because this is showing the deprecated method. For the new method we have two parameters. The first one is the get resources and the second parameter is the bitmap itself. Now if we set the background like this right here, there will be an error at the runtime. Let's understand the reason for this and then further we'll make more changes. Let's understand the method runOnUIThread. You have to use runOnUIThread when you want to update your UI from a non-UI thread. For example, if you want to update your UI from a background thread, you can also use handler class for the same thing. So right here we are trying to update our UI using the non-UI thread. So we have to make sure that we use the method runOnUIThread or we use the handler class. Let's use the method runOnUIThread here. So I'm commenting this for the time being. So let's say runOnUIThread. We need to pass runnable here. So let's pass new runnable, press enter, and it will override the method run. Now inside the run method you can say layout.setBackground. So what exactly is happening? The onDataChanged method, it gets called whenever we send the picture from the cell phone device. Further we use the FreezableUtils to get the list out of it. We are running a loop on the list right here. We are checking for the type changed, and further we are checking if the image path is exactly the same which we sent from the mobile module. And right here we are getting the data map item. Using the data map item we are getting the asset. We are passing the asset in the load bitmap from asset method, which is returning us the bitmap. And last but not the least, we are setting this bitmap as a background on the layout in the UI. Now next important thing is to open the Wear module, and inside the Wear module open Android manifest.xml, and right here let's make an entry for the metadata. Now this entry is required in the Wear module because we are using the Google API client in the Wear module. That is it. Let's run our program now. Here is the output. Mobile module is running on the cell phone device and Wear module is running on the emulator. Please make sure that your cell phone is connected to the emulator at this point in time. You can see that my phone is connected. Now let's click on the take picture button. As soon as we click it, it will open the camera. Let me quickly click a picture. I have just taken a picture, and as soon as you click the picture, you will get the option to OK or cancel. Let's click OK. As soon as you click OK, this will appear as a preview in the image view. Now next we need to click on the send picture button. The moment you click on the send picture button, it will show you the picture on the emulator. As we are setting it as a background, the text is appearing on the foreground. That is it. Thank you. Friends, with this I take your leave. Thank you so much. Please like our page on facebook.com/letsandroid. If you have any query, do write us at info@schoolsteps.in or schoolstepsin@gmail.com. Thank you.